Guess what, fam? We have an AMA. I am bored, and we are going to answer some questions that you guys submitted. Remember, a few days ago, I put out a video and I said, I can't do these types of videos without questions being submitted. You guys came through, you submitted a bunch of questions. So we're going to go through and pick out 5 of them. If you would like to submit a question into this AMA video series, you can do so anonymously. Just go down in the description box, and there'll be a link down there. You can fill out a form, and then you don't have to leave your name, your email address, nothing. You just type out whatever you want, hit submit, and possibly get featured on this video series. Let's go ahead and jump into the first one. Hi. Hello there. First, some good news you may like to hear. Okay, lay it on me. You and a couple of others, okay, me specifically and some other people you don't want to name, have finally pulled me out of the Chud channel space. So thanks. That's amazing to hear. This is why we do what we do. We do it so that people will get proper information, correct information, things that are not misleading, things that are not deceptive, and to call out a lot of the double talk, double standards, hypocrisy, all of that. So the fact that myself and some other unnamed channels helped you get out of that space is good for your mental health, emotional health. Now, you don't need to fill that space with something else. So once you have moved away from that, if you just need to take a break from that and get out of this space on YouTube, I highly recommend it if it is something that is detrimental to you. Do not get pulled back into it. And remember, nobody's above reproach. Always be a little bit skeptical of any channels you stumble upon before you start diving into their content. Going to say, though I do not agree with everything you say, that's okay. I actually welcome differences of opinions. There are some issues, obviously, that I am not going to concede on. There's things I believe in that I'm not going to concede on, but we are totally okay, or I'm totally okay. I'm not going to say we, because I'm not going to speak for the unnamed channels, but I'm totally okay with people having differences of opinions than mine when it comes to entertainment and stuff like that. I don't have an issue with that. That's absolutely fine. From now on, I hope to use my last remaining brain cells to make my own opinion and do fact checking. Great. Also, another time you are bored, can you check out Mr. H Reviews channel? Thanks. I have actually, during my live streams, I do polls where I'm pick out the next person you would like for me to make a video on or someone I'd like to talk about. And almost every time it's the same group of people. I usually put Snarky J and Mr. H Reviews and stuff like that on those polls, but no one, I say no one, it doesn't get selected as the highest, as the one that people want me to do. So if you're watching this video and you would like for me to, go in and look at Mr. H Reviews channel, let me know. And also if you want to suggest a video that you would like for me to watch. Now, I'd like for it to be something either evergreen, meaning something that is timeless and we can talk about at any point in time, or something that is very recent that he's done that you guys would like for me to talk about, something within the YouTube algorithm, so that way it doesn't get buried. If I'm going to debunk someone, I'd like for it to be relevant, simply because otherwise it won't show up in anybody's suggested boxes. So please do that in the comments below. Thank you so much for your comment. All right, so here's a big one. How did you stumble upon the Fandom Menace, specifically Geeks and Gamers, Tuesday night's main event, D-Day Cobra, Jeremy Griggs, Neurotic, Friday Night Tights, The Critical Stinker, Rogue Element, Side Scrollers, Rippaverse, Isom, Eric July, Drunk 3PO, Baller, Az. How did I stumble upon them? Well, I knew about Az before. I've talked about this previously, but I'll just kind of truncate the story here. I was watching Az back when he was actually doing gaming content, when he was doing primarily World of Warcraft stuff. I would watch his channel there because I'm a big RPG guy, so I play a lot of MMOs and RPGs, and so I was watching his content for that reason. And then he shifted over to video game news commentary, and it was getting a little weird during that era, and this was the 2013 to 2016 era. And then after 2016, it sort of became very chuddy for his channel. So that's how I knew about Az. Everyone else in this group, I found out through Az, or I found out because when I was making videos on Marvel and DC, they would have some people from their channels would come over and leave comments in my comment section and attack my opinions and stuff like that. So that's how I knew about them. And then it just sort of unspiraled from there. But Az was kind of the gateway channel into a lot of this for me. So there's the answer to that question. What's your opinion on their connection to Benny Johnson and Turning Point USA? I mean, I don't really have much of an opinion about it. I mean, we're aware of it. We know that this has been going on. It's something that, myself and the guys on the showcast have talked about many, many times. There's a lot of people here on YouTube that are finally talking about this. Every one of these channels that talk about fandom that are at a high level are typically gateway channels into that kind of content. What is the main reason that you dislike or hate the Fandom Menace? I don't like liars. I don't like channels that lie about stuff to get fans to hate things. I think that's disgusting. I think it's a net negative. There is no positive outcome of that in the fandom. Anytime you have to lie about something or be misleading about it to convince people to hate something, at that point, all your credibility has gone out the window. I don't think there's any positive to that at all. Is it because of your politics, sexual orientation, or your love for the favorite IPs and your belief that they are under attack? I don't care if people have negative opinions about stuff. Like if you don't like a movie, that's fine. You can have any individual reason why you dislike a movie. I don't like when people get online in social media and video and stuff and just make reasons up to be mad about stuff. Like one person in a movie on a red carpet somewhere said one tiny thing, and then all of a sudden it becomes, let's tear down the whole fucking movie and the whole studio and stuff like that. I just think that's ridiculous. There's a lot of love that goes into making these projects from the creative side. We live under capitalism, so everything out there that's at a large scale is going to be done with some sort of like studio behind it, some sort of large system behind it to push it out there. So we have to understand that we're always going to have that aspect to everything, and you're going to have to determine what your personal limit is on what you're willing to support in that regard under a capitalistic system, under a system where only like a handful of studios own everything. You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. I typically look on the artistic side of it, the creative side of it. What are these people trying to do? Are they doing it because they love it? Where's the passion? Where's the heart in all of this? And a lot of times that's my determining factor on what I'm willing to support, what I'm not willing to support. These guys go after everything for reasons that seem so petty, cherry-picked, and pedantic that there has to be another reason why. So just jump back to the gateway situation about how it's funneling people to like Christian nationalism, alt-right type stuff. Like it all goes back to that. And it's very misleading and it's dishonest. And that's my reason why. I don't care about like whether they like gay people, they don't like gay people. Typically, I don't give a fuck. If any individual person feels a certain way. Like if you don't like gay people, but you're not in a position of power and you're not somebody pushing anti-gay rhetoric, then that's just what it is. Like, what am I going to do about that? But if you're somebody that is online doing that and you're building a following doing that, and you're advocating for more, political or governmental oversight of anti-human rights, things like that. Like if that's what you're doing, then I'm going to have an issue with that for anybody. It's not just for gay people, any marginalized group at all that suffers from that. I'm gonna have an issue with that. All right. What do you desire to see happen to the fandom menace? I don't really know. I don't have an end game for that. I just think that YouTube has a terms of service that supposedly prevents that kind of content from being out there, and they're not enforcing their terms of service. So take from that what you will. Where do we stop at? What is your number one goal of this channel? To debunk lies and misinformation and have fun while doing it. How do you suggest we go forward as fans? I would say if you are someone who are you talking about fans of the content or fans of those channels? If you're fans of those channels, I would say, evaluate why you're watching them and what benefit it does to your life. Like, how does it help you? Because you can choose not to watch a movie. Like if you choose, I'm not going to watch something like Snow White, you don't need to watch a million videos on why not to watch Snow White. I just feel like that is a pointless thing. If you're talking about what should fans do to push back against these channels, do not engage with them in a way that will benefit them. So watching a video isn't necessarily the worst offense. Like you can watch a video and it doesn't really do that much. It will contribute to the views of the video, but it's an individual view in a large system. Commenting on something, whether you're trying to do it positively or negatively, counts as engagement. Disliking something counts as engagement. Sharing something directly and counts as engagement. All these things are metrics that YouTube uses. So if you're doing one of those, which is watching the video, but you're not doing anything else, you're contributing very little to their spread. If you're going to fight in the comment section with people that they're fans that are under there saying stuff or whatever, if you're going to do that, all you're doing is contributing to that channel's success. This is why when people leave, people go, Eric, why don't you block people? Because anybody in my comment section is helping the engagement on my video, which means that it will spread to a larger audience, which is what these guys are all about. They figure that out. A lot of people on our side, the ones who dislike this kind of content, we're like, oh, we need to also like shut down any sort of rhetoric in our comment section. And what we do is we cut ourselves off by doing that. We prevent ourselves from getting engagement by doing that, because that is the metric that YouTube gives a fuck about. I hate it. but it's the game we have to play to get through this. So there has to be something absolutely egregious for me to block somebody from my comment section. Commenting and engagement in that part of the video is probably the single biggest metric that YouTube uses to determine whether or not your videos are successful. That's why we tell people, please comment on videos. Even if you're leaving like a little emoji, or you're just saying great video, or I agree, or something like that, any sort of engagement in the comment section helps the video more than most other things. So that's my number one thing. So my to roll it back to what you're saying, stop engaging with it in a meaningful way. That's probably the best way to do it. What's the best way of discussing and debating IPs without turning into the fandom menace? Don't buy into rhetoric. That's why I do this channel. If they say something, look it up. It's really that simple. If you don't want to watch my content, but you're still skeptical of those guys, when they say something that sounds really crazy, look for multiple sources that corroborate the story, and look for places that where it comes from that it's like legitimate. That's it. Because they're going to lie and mislead you. They're going to give you one little comment and then they're going to leave a lot of stuff out. So I would say just be very diligent about looking that stuff up. Do you believe the current Hollywood system is fantastic, or do you believe it needs major improvements? I think there's a lot of issues with Hollywood. I don't think it has to do anything with the whole DEIA stuff. I think that that's one sort of like hiccup in a system that is really broken in general. And I think we need people that are a lot smarter than myself or anybody that's making videos about this. And I mean this, anybody that's making videos about this. We need smarter people in the room to figure out what the issue is, because the issue is an overall, what would I say, like a viewing culture has changed, and they really haven't figured out what that is yet. And that's probably the biggest problem with Hollywood right now. And I don't have the answer for that. Do you support Comic-Con and MegaCon? Do you think we need to create our own conventions that better represent the fandom? I mean, they're okay. I don't have an issue with having a variety of people at these types of events or stuff like that. I know I've talked about like platforming hate speech on panels and things. I think that's a problem. But I think if you want to go and you want to make yourself known at these conventions, you want to be out there at these conventions, I think they should allow you to do that. I don't think that if I want to go out and I want to do like a gay pride booth, I should be able to do that without people like, that Star Wars girl, Chris Gore, people complaining about it. I think that's stupid. But that's something they can't really control that, but that should be something they look at when they're thinking about allowing somebody to come into their convention. Have you ever thought about creating your own comic books and media? I did as a kid. I had a lot of comic books that I made. I had a whole team of characters that I made. My issue isn't lack of creativity, it's lack of ability to make it happen. I don't have the funds to do it. If I wanted to make a comic book, like do the art, do the writing, which I totally feel like I could, I just don't have the means to do it. I don't even know where to begin on something like that. And I don't necessarily know if the people in the crowdfunding space that I have talked to or would be willing to talk to me about doing it, because a lot of them also have issues with difference of opinions about things like that. So I don't know. I totally could. I'm an artist. I could totally do my own book. I don't know where to begin, and I don't know if I have the time to do that right now. Lastly, what is the best way for Hollywood media companies, as well as producer, directors, writers, and artists, to be inclusive in marginalized communities without virtue signaling, paneling, or being inauthentic? This is going to sound crazy, I think, to a lot of people, but the idea that they're virtue signaling and being inauthentic is an unprovable thing without them outright saying it. Pandering is going to happen no matter what. Pandering is what any large company does, period, on that. Right? So, for example, if you see a commercial for beer and that commercial is showing hot women and men in race cars or playing sports or whatever, they are pandering to a specific group with that ad. That's what they do. These companies are going to pander to anyone they think they can make money off of. And there's nothing we can do about that. That is the way the advertising system works. That's the way media works almost anywhere where capitalism is present. So pandering, we're not going to get rid of that. There's no way to do that. Every ad would be blank with it would be like, buy a beer. Our beer is this price. That is it. That would be it. Pandering is going to happen no matter what. So as far as being inauthentic and virtue signaling, there's no way to prove that. However, I will say that the best way to do it, and this is going to make, like I said, it's going to trigger some people, is to have more diverse voices present when you're making these things. If you look at movies, like if you look at a movie or TV show and it's full of diverse like people, like whether it be women, black people, gay people, trans people, but there's none of that present in the creative process, that's a problem. That's an issue. And the chud channels, the grift channels don't want to hear that because they don't want more of that because they believe that is destroying studios. But if you want something to be authentic on screen, then it has to be authentic on the back end. It has to be there in the back end. Someone working through the system to make this thing happen should be allowing more authenticity in the back end of it. Because if you're just doing it on screen, then that is a problem. That is an issue. So I've always said, if we want less tokenization, if we want less virtue signaling, if we want less of these things, we need more people in the industry, like in the gears of the industry working on it to make that difference. Because that's how that works. Now, do I think that everyone, like if you want to write a story about a community that you're not a part of and you have an idea for it, I think you just need to do your due diligence about connecting with people in that community or researching that community enough to make your story make sense, because otherwise you're going to have an issue with that. So for me personally, that's what I think. We need more people behind the system making those things work in order for them to feel real and not a virtue signal. But there's still no way to prove about virtue signaling. It's a thing you can say, but you have to have very specific things to prove it. And very few times in Hollywood have I ever seen something where I'm like, that's 100% a virtue signal. It does happen, but it's just really hard to prove. Thank you for all of your questions here. I know it was a long one, you guys, but let's go ahead and move on to the next one. All right, so here's a short one. Why is Star Wars Theory afraid to say he's on the right? He clearly is. It's a short question, but there's actually a lot to unpack here. Star Wars Theory is at the beginning of his grift, which is where a lot of channels, the bigger channels we know of now, started out, right? So you have Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, these guys, they start out testing the waters. They start out doing things that they're not sure if their fans are going to stick around for, just to see if they will. How many people are you willing to lose to take a risk on gaining a new audience? That's what Star Wars Theory is dealing with right now. That's where he's at when it comes to this, is he doesn't know for sure how many of his audience is willing to put up with a lot of the stuff that the Fandom Menace and the Geeks and Gamers guys are doing. He's not certain, so he's taking it very carefully. This is why things like dog whistling works for these guys. They're able to say things and do things that will attract a certain type of subscriber without outwardly saying it and without totally destroying the fan base they've already worked hard to build. So by coming out and saying my political allegiance is on this side, you have to know for certainty, or at least you're willing to get rid of some of your fans, that you're going to divide people in your audience by doing that. This is why if you look at Geeks and Gamers and Fandom Menace, there's only a couple of them that are just 100% like MAGA, right? They're only a couple of them. Some of them, we know they're conservative. They're not outwardly quote unquote MAGA, and some of them just don't talk about it at all, but clearly they're okay with like, the alt-right rhetoric. But they're doing that because they want that plausible deniability, so that if they're ever asked about it specifically, they can sort of dodge the question. Once you come out, like Jeremy Griggs has come out, he's like super MAGA Trump asshole licker, right? Like he's a Trump ball licker. Once you've done that, there's no walking that back. So he's always going to be associated with that no matter what. Whereas if you're someone that doesn't say that, you can just deny it and continue to fence it, which is what people like Star Wars Theory could be. I'm saying could be doing, because I don't know if he's ever spoken about this randomly. I'm basing this solely on your question here. But typically that's why people avoid that stuff, is because they don't want to get locked in and stuck inside of this sort of bubble of I'm just this kind of content creator and alienate a bunch of their fans. So that's why they do it. All right, next up, would you consider doing more live reactions? I know you did a couple of them over the last few months, but you stopped. I think the last one I did was I think it was the Jester Bell video, and I did that one because there was an issue with StreamYard and I had to use another service. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Would you guys like for me to do more live reactions of content? Like, I've thought about doing just a stream where I react to 2 or 3 videos live while you guys are here. You can listen, you can watch as I fact check and like do things like that behind the scenes. I don't know. Would you guys be interested in that? Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see something along those lines. I don't mind doing it. But just let me know if you'd like to see something like that. Thank you for your comment. All right, this is our last one. It's a little bit longer, but let's read through it. I don't think there's a ton of questions, but it is a long comment. So let's see if I can do my best to read through this. I'm not the best at doing this. Hola, Eric. Unsure if you saw, but Asmongold gave a huge signal boost to Nerdrotic today, October 29th, which was a couple days ago. Watching an entire video on stream. The Scouring of Tolkien, and recently, maybe like a month ago, somebody watched a video about the Critical Drinker, although his react didn't make it to his main YouTube channel. Given that Asmongold is one of the biggest streamers with a massive audience is platforming these guys, how does this work in tandem with your analysis of rising fatigue or hate-filled chud content? Okay, we'll stop there. I'll answer that one. It doesn't change very much. Asmongold, these guys are all, it's all a how do I put this? Like the human centipede of content. Like they're doing. I mean, yes, Asmongold has a large audience, but I don't think it's going to give that much extra boost to those guys. Those guys are probably willing to watch that content through Asmongold, but I don't know if they're going to move away from Asmongold to give time to these other guys, if that makes any sense. I mean, this is all the same pipeline. I would assume most of Asmongold's viewers now are pretty familiar with this kind of stuff. And to be quite fair, Asmongold is a weird one because he kind of has his own little community where he doesn't really need a lot of stuff outside of that. So I don't really know how much of that would make much of a difference. Being boosted by Asmon is like being touched by a demigod. He's literally made the careers of smaller YouTubers simply by watching one video, boosting a channel with a few hundred subs to 100K overnight, and serves to keep people like Nerdrotic alive and thriving in the algorithm by reaffirming the relevance of his content to viewers already familiar with him, in addition to directing new viewers to his channel. I don't know about that. We'd have to look and see. He did the video a couple days ago. Let me see where Nerdrotic's channel is at right now. His subscribers haven't moved very much, 1.23. I don't think it was much higher or much lower than that the last time I looked. It's around the same. So I'm not seeing a big boost of some new subscribers. We'll keep an eye on it over the next month or so. I'll keep an eye on it to make sure, but I don't see any sort of like massive change in his subscribers because of that. Like I said, you get to a certain level on YouTube and that's your plateau. I actually think Nerdrotic is close to his plateau, but we'll see. Where do we stop at? Just 2 weeks ago, the vid of Everyone Hates The Witcher Season 4 has reacted to many Nerdrotic videos over the years. Unsure how the chud content will ever lose its grasp on the cultural zeitgeist, as you've discussed with the self-subsidizing feedback loop like this, alongside Twitter being utterly dominated by the chud's post-Musk takeover. That was a tongue twister. And it isn't just Asmongold. Although he is huge, the loop reaches beyond him into a circle jerk infinity spiral that exists to stark contrast realities of fatigue that I've outlined from my view. Not to say there isn't hope this kind of content doesn't lose its power over time, but I feel at the current juncture the outlook isn't as positive as described thoughts. I totally disagree with you. I think we're seeing more and more the echo chamber is becoming more echoey. Like Twitter really, like people know what Twitter is, right? Like no one is under some sort of like misunderstanding that Twitter is less alt-right than it is. Like I think everyone pretty much knows that. So that's what you're going to get from Twitter. I think people like Asmongold and a lot of these other channels, people know what kind of content they make. Now, there are outliers to this. I think Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker and even Asmongold are sort of outliers to the system just because of their size. But everyone has a plateau point. Everyone, every star, every celebrity, every person has a plateau point where they just cannot move or grow beyond where they are because they have reached an existence where they have amassed as much following as they can based on the kind of content that they do. You have to change and evolve to grow and spread out. You lose a few people along the way, you gain new people, hopefully, as you grow. A lot of these guys don't know how to do that. I don't know about Asmongold for sure because he is just a daily content streamer. So I don't know how that works for him. He changes, his opinions flip-flop over time. People like Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, even influencers on Twitter, there's a finite amount of real people that can engage with that content, that are willing to engage with that content. Twitter is, last time I checked, let me double check the numbers. I just double checked. They're saying that Twitter is trying to downplay the bot problem it has, and that there's at least 20 to 30% bots with an upwards of 68% of users not being real people and like not necessarily bots, but like people pretending to be other people, like these farms of people with like multiple accounts that just pretend to be other people. So there's a lot of sock accounts. Twitter's full of that. There's the verification process on Twitter is so relaxed that it's almost a fake reality. And it is like that a little bit on YouTube as well, because you can create multiple accounts. You can have as many accounts as you want. So a lot of it is sort of this like inflated artificial reality that these guys exist in. And we're seeing that fatigue of this content is real. Like, even if you're saying that visually it looks like they're growing, there are reasons why channels like Shadiversity is complaining about like lack of income. There's reason why channels like Clownfish TV are freaking out. There's reasons why channels Geeks and Gamers are not uploading videos anymore, just doing live streams and begging for super chats. There's a reason why Melanie Mac just gave up on her channel. There's a reason why a lot of these other channels, like look at Side Scrollers, they did a week-long IRL stream to try and raise money for some nebulous cause. There's a reason why they're doing this. If they're not saying it, you have to look at what is happening. They do all of this for money. And when they start changing their behavior and their ways of making money in very obvious ways, that means that something is going on and they're trying to pretend that it isn't. So regardless of what it looks like on the outside, the actual actions and numbers and slowdown of growth based on just looking at where they were a year ago, all of these things point to the fact that these channels are slowing down. They're slowing down in every metric, in all of them. The numbers just back this up. So what's happening is, I think what we're seeing is a lot of these guys out here are trying to peacock around and make it seem like they're doing a lot better than they are when they're not, because actions speak louder than words. So you can have 5 million subscribers, but if you're seeing a viewership number in like 10% of that, that's saying there's a problem, and those subscribers don't mean anything. I need to do a deep dive into this because the vast majority of subscribers on Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic's channel are dead subs. They're not watching their content, the vast majority of them. Well, save that for another video. Anyway, thank you guys so much for all of your comments and leaving everything here for me to react to. If you would like to leave a comment or a question or a suggestion in this form, you can in the description box down below. So I'll be seeing you guys later on. Take care and have a great weekend.